Good night. Go see. Oh wow. Oh, I did not. I need to close. No, I did not. It's almost 8. Oh no. It's now. It's now, guys. Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday of Design with You. Okay, so we're just going to wait a little while, give it 5 minutes for others to join before we commence. Good evening. If you're just joining us, this is Design with You, and we have 2 more minutes to wait before we commence today's meeting. We're giving it time for others to join. Okay, once again, good evening. I can see our speaker for today just joined us. We have 1 more minute before we begin with our session for today. Okay, the time is 8:03 p.m. and today we will be discussing designing for the metaverse. I am pretty sure everybody has heard about the metaverse. Designers, I'm pretty sure we all should have heard about the metaverse, combining AR and VR. Let me not even go deep. Our speaker for today is Ozenua Tobi. He's a product designer at Vault Hill. He'll be taking us on this topic. Ozenua Tobi, good evening. Please, if you're here, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for hosting such a wonderful session as well. My name is Ozenua Tobi. I call myself the one Ozenua, and I am a designer, a product designer at Vault Hill. What we do at Vault Hill is we are currently building the first human-centered metaverse, and over the past 7 to 8 months, I've been within the metaverse space, creating wonderful designs and experimenting on several AR VR experiments. At the moment, I'm currently working on three VR products for three different companies as well. I'm sure how we'll be sharing today will be very insightful, and it will launch us into a new design phase and a new phase in design as well. So yeah, I believe I can start from here, right?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, as it is, I would love to actually talk about a few things as regards the metaverse. I would be sharing my screen. I'll be sharing. I prepared a slide, um, a mini slide though, something from my um, my resource file. So I'll be sharing a few screens from here to talk about this particular topic. Yep. So, moment, please. Okay. Okay. So one of the few things I would actually love to talk about is first and foremost, I would love to educate us as regards the metaverse and the terms associated with the metaverse. And then after that, I will jump into talking about how to actually design on the metaverse. So, first and foremost, what is a metaverse? So, a metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on social connection. Um, in my own best definition, I call it a 3D space, a complete digital twin of our physical health, our physical earth, but then in a 3D space. So basically, a metaverse should be able to mirror the things we do in real life, but then in this situation, we are going to be experiencing it within 3D. So in futurism and science fiction, it is often described as a hypothetical iteration of the internet as a single universal virtual world that is facilitated by the use of virtual and augmented reality headsets. So yeah, as for many people know, many people believe that the whole metaverse of a topic is something that has to do with augmented reality, virtual reality, and the whole headsets and the things alike. So, metaverse experience. Your experience in the metaverse is based on what you engage with there. It is immersive. If it's immersive social experiences, it could be games, it could be workshops, parties, or concerts. Because the metaverse is 3D, you will be moving through it rather than scrolling over it on a screen. So when we talk about metaverse experience, we are talking about uh, a a virtual world, and first, just like you can walk around within your physical space, you should be able to mimic that experience as well when you're talking about the metaverse. And the kind of experience you get depends on what kind of content you're actually accessing. um, Take for instance, we are currently building a real estate, a very vast human real estate in Vault Hill. And because of that, when you come to the Vault Hill City Metaverse, what you will find is you will find um, a very urban setting. Talk about skyscrapers, art galleries, fitness centers, sports centers, social centers. So when you come on our metaverse, that is what you will experience. On some other metaverses, it's about gaming experiences. Something like Roblox is a completely gaming experience where you come and the moment you are onboarded on Roblox, you start sorting out puzzles, building environments, and building gaming environments and the likes for for the gaming experience. Another example is Decentraland. Decentraland comprises of two experiences: the gaming and the social experience. So in Decentraland, you can actually communicate with um, other avatars on the metaverse. That is, other humans on the metaverse. You can communicate. You can talk with them. You can interact with people within that space, and of course, you can also play games as well. So, digital twin, a digital twin is a virtual object in the metaverse which represents a real life object, being or structure. So, just like the way you have buildings in real life, you also have buildings on the metaverse. You have vehicles on the metaverse. You have stores in the metaverse. You have, of course, you have people as well in the metaverse. So, that is what a digital twin is. Yeah, avatars as well. So, an avatar in the metaverse is more than just a user created face. It's most essentially because that user entire manifestation in the metaverse. Therefore, whatever actions the avatar on that I want to assume based on what I've heard from people.
Okay, I think our speaker Toby is experiencing some network issues. Let's just hold on a little while for him. Toby, if you can hear me, we cannot hear anything you're saying anymore.
Apologies. I had to quickly sort out my network challenges there. Sincere apologies.
All right, thank you.
Yes. So quick one. Let's quickly continue. Yes. So I was talking about avatars being direct representation of the actual user itself. Now, for those who have actually experienced putting on a VR headset, you realize that the VR headset is able to track your facial expression, is able to track your hands as well. So if you are smiling in real life, there is a big 90% chance that your avatar would also be smiling within the 3D environment. If you're raising your hands up, your avatar is definitely raising their hands up. So the avatar doesn't just represent you, the avatar does not have its own will within the metaverse. You as a person control everything the avatar does. If you're talking, your avatar is definitely talking. If you're laughing, it's laughing. If you're waving, your avatar is as well waving. So it's you. Your avatar completely represents you within the metaverse. Portals are access points that connect um, different virtual environments that are distributed in the same platform. Um, Portals are basically for teleportation. For us who love sci-fi movies, we have very good idea of what a portal is. When people want to transport themselves from one point to another in an instant, they make use of portals. So you have portals randomly distributed within the metaverse for quick navigation. I'm going to be skipping some, and yeah. So a good example of, or a complete illustration. Oh no, don't let me say complete. Let me say a very good example of what the metaverse looks like is what we have in the movie Ready Player One. I'm pretty sure many of us must have seen Ready Player One. If you've not seen Ready Player One, I think you want to check it out. It's a sci-fi movie that talks about the metaverse and businesses trying to own the one true metaverse. So you should check it out. You would have very vast understanding of what we're talking about here. Yeah, please watch Ready. Please watch Ready Player One. Okay, so what is virtual reality? Virtual reality (VR) is an immersive experience, usually operated with a digital headset. A VR headset gives the user a 360-degree view within a virtual space. So to make it more clearer, in virtual reality, you are in a 3D space, a 3D world, a virtual world, and you are able to interact with 3D elements round about you. Now, in the case of augmented reality, you'll be having 3D objects, 2D, 3D objects within a real life space. So the clear difference between virtual reality and augmented reality has to do with um, the immersion. In virtual reality, you as a person, you are introduced into a 3D space where everything you see around about you is a virtual world. But in augmented reality, the 3D items, the 3D components and elements is introduced into the real world. So basically, that's the main difference. A good example of AR, augmented reality, is what you have on your Snapchat, your Instagram. For enterprises, you could check out IKEA, the IKEA AR application at the App Store or the Play Store. Another good example which you could use to test out AR features is Bang& Olufsen experience. You could just check it out, Bang& Olufsen experience. You would get a feel of what that looks like. So what is mixed reality? Now, mixed reality is an immersive experience that incorporates elements of virtual reality and augmented reality and allows the user to interact with virtual and real world objects in real time. So basically, we can call mixed reality an updated version of the augmented reality. For augmented reality, you can't actually interact with what you're seeing. You can't actually interact with it. That is, you can't touch it, you can't drag it, it is usually fixed in AR. It is automatically positioned in AR wherever you want it to be positioned, but then you cannot interact with it. But then in mixed reality, you can interact with the 3D element. You can touch it, you can drag it, you can increase the size, you can reduce the size, and things like that. A good example of a MR device is the Microsoft HoloLens. It's pretty expensive, though, but if you have the cash, you could go for it. It's about 3,000 USD. Now, some other terms that are associated with the metaverse includes blockchain, NFTs, Web3, and of course, MMO for gaming, MMO and RPG for gaming. So if you are going to be a designer within the metaverse space, it is very important you get acquainted with the blockchain. It's very important you get acquainted with NFTs and how NFTs work. And of course, you are very, very acquainted with the old Web3 technology. So when it comes to design, I particularly have, okay, so let me make something clear. So Web3 for designers is basically everything you know about design. So I don't know who you've heard in the past, but I just want to make this quick correction to something. I've heard people talk about Web3, and one of the things I've heard, one of the many questions I've heard is, how do you design for Web3? Well, basically, Web3 design style incorporates the same design patterns you use for Web2. It has the same, what's it called? It follows the same design principle for colors, principle for spacing, principles for layout as well. But what differs is the technology itself. Being able to understand how blockchain, how data, users, how users react to certain changes in the Web3 space is what defines Web3 design. So I felt that was very important for me to actually clarify. If you're going into Web3 as a designer, you are basically still doing the same thing you have been doing a couple of years ago, a year ago. But then what should change is the understanding, how your understanding of that technology should affect the user experience. Okay, so next up, I want to talk about the misconceptions people have about the metaverse. There are very, very vast misconceptions I've heard about the metaverse. So one of them is this: the metaverse is already here. So mid last year, after I joined Vault EU, I started talking about how that people should start learning new skill sets around Web3, skill sets around 3D and the likes. And what I said was, in a few years' time, I was actually predicting 3 to 5 years. But fortunately, Facebook began to talk heavily about their migration into the metaverse. After a week, Microsoft joined. After a week, Netflix also, declared their interest within that space. But the truth is this: the metaverse has been something that has been existing for way longer than now. But as of right now, we are still not close to how much we can do on the metaverse. As I said, if you're gonna, if you take some time out to watch Ready Player One, you will realize that what we have now is very, very far. We are still so far from getting to that kind of reality that was displayed in Ready Player One. So trust me, what we are seeing now is just scraps of the very big pile of experience that would come around in the years to come. So the metaverse is still far from here. There is still a lot to explore. We talk about device engines, gaming engines, the headset itself. I believe the headset is something that will get smaller over time. And even while it gets smaller, the quality of display, the quality of image processing would also improve as the year passes. Another misconception is you can only visit the metaverse in virtual reality. And yeah, this is the biggest of all misconceptions. You can actually access virtual reality from your PC, from your laptop. You don't have to own a Oculus headset or a HoloLens to experience what the metaverse looks like. Decentraland is is a web platform, a full web platform for the metaverse. Meaning, if you have your PC, you can just go to Decentraland and you have access to the metaverse itself. Another good example is I think Roblox too. Yeah, is Roblox. Roblox too has their metaverse on the web. But for Vault Hill, our metaverse will be hosted in virtual reality and augmented reality. Definitely, we are working on WebXR as well. So, but we are main flagship would be virtual reality and the AR. So the next stop, Facebook is creating the metaverse and show us what the metaverse looks like. Yeah, as I said, Facebook is not the only company in the metaverse. Facebook does not own the metaverse. Many confusion about the name Meta. Facebook is not metaverse. Meta is not the metaverse. Meta is just a company interested in exploring the technology. There are many companies that has been into this technology long before Facebook, and definitely they are still striving to create more wonderful experiences within the metaverse.
Toby, we cannot hear anything. We cannot hear you anymore. If you can hear us. Okay, I think he's experiencing some network
Yes,
difficulty.
like
Okay, you're back.
yeah. I just Like I really can't understand why I'm my network is acting this way tonight.
It's okay. We're in Nigeria. Don't worry. We understand.
No. All right, yeah. So now for designers, how where do designers come in when it comes to the metaverse? So I'm going to be breaking, no, definitely not breaking any rules, but I will be putting it out to you right now that when we talk about metaverse in the big picture, 90% chance that you will definitely be working on a VR headset, or you'll be working on a VR application or an AR application. Now, there is also something called WebXR. The principles guiding WebXR are very similar, 90% similar, 99% similar to the principles that guide the VR headset as well. The only difference is the device. So, as I said, 90% of the time, as a designer, if you are going to be working on anything within the metaverse, you most likely be, developing for virtual reality. So, when the world largest tech companies, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, are investing so much into developing VR technology, it is important that as designers, we begin to see the opportunities that are within this space and plug into it. Designers should care because the market has provided them with reliable work over the past few decades and is about to shift towards a new paradigm of immersive 3D content. Now, as designers, we are not limited to creating, buttons and cards and what else, text fields alone. We should also start looking at how we can bring sound, we can augment sound, improve on sound, touch, depth, and emotion as an integral part of virtual reality experience, making even the most novel 2D experiences feel boring and outdated and dated. So basically, what I do at Vaultio itself is I create first and foremost, I deal heavily on user experience and I create UI for VR. Now, my job does not just end on Figma. My job takes me to understanding how sound and sound effect affects the user experiences. Now, I think 4 months back, I actually tweeted on my Twitter that as designers, we should start looking into sound UX. Basically, if you're going to be going big into the metaverse, you want to be a wonderful analyzer of sound. You want to be able to incorporate sound into your design because sound itself makes virtual reality beautiful. Feedback, when you talk about haptic feedback, feedback when the user touches a button, the kind of feedback the user gets when, sound feedbacks, haptic feedbacks the user gets when they interact with 3D elements are some of those important things you also want to start looking into. Trust me, I'm pretty sure almost nobody in this room knows any sound UX designer. And as it is, that is a very, very, very big part of, of the whole metaverse itself. So that is one space you want to look into. Yeah. So another thing is this. The best way to learn about virtual reality design is in virtual reality itself. Sorry to say this. I've always gotten this question that do I need to own the Oculus headsets? Do I need to own a VR headset before I can design for virtual reality? Now, the best comparison to that question is this. Do I need to own a PC before I can design a landing page for a landing page? You cannot come to understand how it feels when you are within the VR space if you've never experienced it before. Now, you could get a tutorial online. I could teach you how to design for virtual reality. You can watch several videos on YouTube. You can take a course. But if you have never experienced virtual reality before, you have no idea of what to do. When I joined Vault.io, I basically had no idea of what the design should look like. I had no idea whatsoever. I read as many articles as I could. I saw as many videos as I could, and still, of course, I was able to come up with some designs, but they were very, very, very far from what proper UI should look like within the VR space. But the moment I started working with the Oculus headsets, I was able to come up with several design guidelines for myself to help reality. This may be a sad news, but that's just the truth. If you want to design the best experiences, you would need the Oculus headset as one of the tools you use for your design. So next up, as designers, you need to think beyond rectangles, circles, and lines. I am very sure that 99% of the time when you're designing for mobile applications and web applications, you are drawing rectangles, you are drawing circles, you are drawing lines. But when it comes to VR, things are a bit different. Now, you are introducing 2D into 3D spaces. You are creating massive layouts within a 360-degree view. Now, a 360-degree view is not a flat screen. It's a completely circular screen. So the whole concepts, the whole ideas, the whole rules that guides mobile application design, web application design, when it comes to virtual reality, a very large percent of those rules do not apply. Because of course, the environment is different. The space is different. You are moving from a flat surface to a 3D space. Imagine designing in thin air. That is what virtual reality is. Designing in thin air, meaning you are putting UI design on floating space. You are putting buttons on floating space. How should that look like? The whole idea of 5 pixel padding, 12 pixel padding, 24 spacing between elements of similar, characteristics. Those things really, on the long run, you realize would not apply when it comes to virtual reality, because you need to put a lot of things into consideration when it comes to VR. So, yeah, that's on that. Now, next up, I would love to talk about ergonomics for virtual reality. Now, this will be the last thing I'll talk about. After this, I just go into a quick workshop and explain a few things to us here. For ergonomics, things are also very different from what we are very familiar with. Now, imagine being in a 3D space. Now, really, you don't even need to imagine. As of right now, just take your head up and have a gaze at something. You realize that at every point in time you are staring at something, every other thing within that space, you are either unable to see them or you are unable to see them clearly. But when you move your head a few angles to the left or a few angles to the right, some objects become more visible while the others, become blurry or almost invisible. Now, this here is how virtual reality works. When you are designing for your mobile application, you talk about how that you have to be able to fit, some things into your mobile screens. You talk about margins, talk about paddings, you talk about hierarchy and the likes. How that you're able to fit several information into a mobile screen of about 335 340 or 50 pixel wide device. And if it's for your web also, you're also most likely talking about the same principles and how to fit different elements into a 1440 pixel device. But in this case, you're not working with pixels. You're not working with width or height. You're working with a completely vast space of 360-degree view. So trust me, those basics don't apply here anymore. Now we have to talk about the concept of field of view and depth. Now, when you're talking about field of view, you're talking about the most convenient view or the most convenient angle a subject or a person can see at a time. When I'm looking straight up, when I'm looking forward, what is the most convenient? What are those things I can see clearly? When I move my head at certain angles, what are those things that become clear to me? When I move my head to the left or to the right, to the top or look down, what are those things that are perfectly within my field of view? Now, that is one concept. Another concept is depth. How close should an element be to my face? How far should it be? If it's far, how can we augment an experience that even though an object is far, the user is still able to, to interpret what the object is and to also interact with the object. Those things become the very important pieces that you need to start getting yourself accustomed to when you're talking about designing for virtual reality or augmented reality. So yeah, so quick one. I'm going to explain what I have here on my screen. So what I have on my screen here is the field of view of a subject. What is the perfect field of view? And what is comfortable when I look up? What is comfortable when I look down? At what angle should it be? When I tilt my head to the left, when I tilt my head to the right, what is the most convenient angle I should tilt my head to? It would be inconvenient to make the user turn their head 360-degree just to be able to access certain elements or objects or views within the VR headset. So understanding this experience and how it affects user experience is very, very important. And here is another one also that talks about distance. This talks about depth. How far should an object be for it to be considered perfect? So now we talk about foreground, we talk about midground, we talk about background, and then the distances between them. We have 0.5 meter, 15 meter, 20 meters. When an object is 20 meters from you, it shouldn't be something you want to start reading. It should be something you should consider as the end of the space itself. When I tilt my head to certain angles, is it still comfortable for me? Is it still convenient? Things like that are, those are the basics that actually build up designing for VR. So next up, I'm going to, chill for about 5 minutes to see if anybody has questions while I set up my Figma to, demonstrate a few things.
Okay, right. Thank you, Toby. If you have your videos turned on, please mute them so you don't distract others. Please mute your videos. Uh, Felix and Mr. Rat, please can you mute your videos? Thank you. Well, let's wait for Toby to come back. And if you have questions, you can send them to the chat. And when Toby's back, we'll ask it. Send down any questions you might have. If you want to ask for his link, if you want to ask for him to mentor you, you can do that in the chats now before he comes back. Okay, someone already sent a question. All videos are recorded. Someone asked that before. This session is recorded and you can get that on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Design with You, and gain access to other videos we have there. Please mute your videos. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, we welcome back, everybody. All right, so I will be demonstrating something to you all. For those who are really interested in designing for VR, this what I will be explaining now is what I want to consider as the beginning of your design, the beginning, the alpha of whatever you'll be designing for virtual reality. Now, what I have here is okay. So this is a big disclaimer. Um, I I worked on this myself. I postulated these ideas myself. I tested them out and I related them to engineers at Voltil and some other companies I've had the opportunity to work with. And they have all approved my design approach style as an ideal way to present concepts within VR on Figma. So this is not set on stones, but this is how I design, and it has been working for me over the past 8 months as well. So quick disclaimer there. All right, so quick one. What I have here is a Figma screen of about 3600 by 900. I'm using 3600 because I feel that's really wide enough. We should be able to create a 360-degree view with, to wrap these with in a complete circle. Something this wide, 3,600 is wide, and then 900 because that's like the standard height for the Oculus headset. So yeah, as I said, I came up with these ideas myself. Now, the main thing, the most important part of what I'm about to show you is this guy over here. So I'm going to call this the eye.
Yeah.
That is the subject. You as a person, this is your eye, or this is your head, and this is your field of view. This is how much you can see whenever you're looking straight ahead of you. I shared something here. Let me quickly remind us. I shared something here when I explained the whole concept of field of view. So I'm using these angles as reference points for the design I'm sharing now. So when you're looking straight ahead, this is what you can see perfectly when you're looking straight ahead. Meaning when you tilt your head, you'll most likely be seeing, when you tilt your head to the right, you'll most likely be seeing these two boxes. When you tilt your head to the left, you'll most likely be seeing these two boxes. So at different points in times, the field of view differs, or the objects within the field of view differs. So quick illustration. So let's assume you as a user tilt your head in this direction. As you see, you are most likely to be looking at these two things, while this one becomes out of view. Same applies when you look to the left. You're most likely to be seeing these two guys. Why these other two? This one will definitely completely fade out. You may be seeing a bit of this, but of course it is clearly outside of your field of view. So first and foremost, that is the whole concept. Now, so what I did is this. At different points in time, I want to be able to conveniently design without having to work with these extra wide screens. So I developed these concepts, traced out the view, and then I mapped out the area into this rectangle. So whenever I want to design, I focus majorly on creating the experiences within this rectangle. Now that way I am able to always communicate that I'm able to always determine that I'm designing this UI in a position where the user is most convenient, in a position where the user would always be able to spot the objects, and it definitely would be within their convenience. So what next? Then after then, I create a new frame, definitely within this width. I create a new frame. The width is 1,135. Height is definitely 900. Fill it with color. Yeah, and then I work directly on this canvas. So this is my process here. Once I have this, I bring in a virtual environment It could be any image you find online that could work for you. So far, I've been creating my own environments. However, you choose to do that, you could use an existing environment, that a picture you download from Google or anything that works. So I, create my own environment. After I've done that, I start creating UI elements. So I'm going to bring something I've already worked on in the past before. So I save myself the stress of having to go through that again. Yeah. So this is a virtual space, a 3D space that I created some days back. Now, after I've created my environment, the next thing is positioning. As I said, the position of the elements, how close it is to the user, how far is it from the user, every of these things affect user experience. So let's assume I'm creating a gaming platform on VR. I already have that screen as well, so I'm just going to bring it over. So the name of my game is Cyberboards. I have my main menu. Now, quick one here. As I said, when it comes to VR, we most likely the things you are very familiar with as regards UI design may not count. For my background, I have a black background of 64%, and I added some background shadows. I have my main menu arranged in this order, campaign, multiplayer, and the likes. Yeah, so looking at this from a 2D perspective, we can all conclude about certain things. We can say that the menu is somewhere in between. We can say so the menu is raised to the top and the logo is directly above the main menu. But how can we prove if that is true? As we said here, we are talking about a 3D space, not a 2D space. Now, as a designer for the metaverse, defining position is one of the things you should consider as your major responsibility. Looking at this from a 2D perspective or from whatever we are used to as designers, we cannot talk about position in this design. We do not know how close this is to the user. We don't know how far it is from the user. So what you want to do next is begin to define X and Y positions. Now, when I say X position, I'm talking about horizontal position. When I say Y, I'm talking about vertical positioning. So I already worked on that as well. So I'm going to zoom in closely to explain what I mean. Now I'm going to go back to introduce my eyes or my head into the design. Now, my head is placed significantly in a position to assume that the user is standing. Now, if I bring this lower than it is, and of course, I have my field of view all the time. If I bring this lower than it is, I may be saying the user is sitting down. But 90% of the time, when you're using your VR headset, you'll most likely be standing. So I raise it up a bit. Now, I define the position of the logo, and I define the position of the main menu. Now, looking at this from the X direction, you will realize that the main menu is very close to the user, while the logo is way to the back. Now, if all you do is define this interaction, just design this, you've not done anything yet. You've not defined positions. So you have to also come and define positions. Now, from the previous picture I showed, it defined how far certain things should be from the user. At the moment, the main menu is in the middle ground, and the middle ground is definitely the most convenient position or somewhere between the middle ground and the foreground is the most convenient position to placing things the user should be able to read conveniently. Because of course we know people have different eye conditions. You have people who are short-sighted, you have people who are long-sighted. So being able to put your elements in positions where both parties can conveniently use the device is significantly important. Now, I'm placing this guy here, right in the middle ground, in a position that is reasonably distant from the user's head. Now the logo is way to the back, and it is still within the field of view of the user as well. Now, any iteration I do to this guy, any alterations I do to this guy, if I move it down, then it simply means I'm going to alter the user's field of view. So I'm going to illustrate that by tilting this Let me see if I can achieve that. Not you. Yeah. So if I'm going to move this guy a bit lower, I'm going to alter the field of view of the user. Now, the moment the user is looking at the menu like this, as you can see, the logo is already out of view. So now that is how sensitive positioning, field of view, those concepts of positioning, field of view, and depth actually matters when it comes to designing for VR. So I'm going to return this to the original position. Now, afterwards, what we want to talk about is we also want to show this UI from the UI perspective as well. And I already have that designed. So I'm going to bring it over as well. Now, this is what it looks like from the top. Now, of course, this is our head or our eyes, and this is what it looks like when you are looking at it from the top. As you can see, the width of the menu is still perfectly within the field of view. It is not too wide. It is perfectly within the field of view. And of course, the logo is small enough to be seen by the subject itself. So beyond familiar with when it comes to desktop and mobile design, this is how much information we need to start considering when we're talking about virtual reality. For those of us who love user experience design, who are so big about user experience, I think going into the metaverse, going into VR, going into augmented reality would help you stretch your abilities as a UX designer. Before I actually started designing, it took me about 4 months to do massive and heavy research. 4 months, I joined Vault till July. I did not design anything until December. So throughout that period, all I was doing was making research, understanding the whole concept of distance, that is depth, understanding the whole concept of field of view, understanding positioning, and of course, learning from different top applications in VR to understand how they came by their UI design and how what design thinking was put into the design of whatever applications that they have. So basically, this is what it takes. This is all you need to know when it comes to VR design. Trust me, the colors don't matter when it comes to VR design. Basically, when you have a black background, you are good to go. So I'm sorry to disappoint those who are big about aesthetics. The truth is this: when it comes to virtual reality, we are trying as much as possible to make a very, very immersive experience. Meaning, the user needs to see less text, more sounds, click less, touch more, type less, talk more. Those things are actually what you do in the metaverse, by the way. You shouldn't be doing a lot of typing. Instead, you should be able to talk, you should be able to grab, you should be able to, touch and sense objects around, instead of, having several clicks like we do have on our native mobile applications and web applications. So, yeah, I think basically that's it about designing for the metaverse. Of course, there is more, there is a whole lot more that goes into this, but in terms of the basics, that is what you need to know. Now, straight up, let me dive into the tools. Originally, Figma, of course, we all know, Figma does not Figma has not yet introduced 3D into the work environment. Photoshop has 3D in the work environment, and Adobe XD has 3D already within their work environment. So as an ideal tool for a designer who just wants to explore this space, I would advise, this is very unusual, and I feel I'm actually breaking my own heart by saying this because I'm a Figma stan, but if you really want to explore the opportunities and you want to experience 3D within your regular design tools, I think you want to start looking at using Adobe XD. Adobe XD provides you the benefits to tilt your objects in 3D perspective. You could bend it, you could curve it, of course, just like you would always find in VR designs. You can do that on XD, not yet on Figma, but I'm pretty sure it's coming very soon on Figma. I'm pretty sure. So get Adobe XD or get Adobe Photoshop and start designing. Now, on the long run, it is important that you also plan to scale. At the moment, I am planning to learn 3D. I am heavily preparing for my dive into 3D. So for more advanced tools, you'll be using tools like Blender, Unreal Engine, Unity, Cinema 4D. But then we are Figma designers, so let's just stick with Figma for now and see how smooth the journey goes. And yeah, I think that's all I have to offer about for this class. I'm sorry I'm not talking about the spacing and the likes. Trust me, it really doesn't matter when it comes to VR design. The things that matter is what I've just shared with you. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Toby. Thank you for having us today. There are a few questions that I would like to ask. Okay,
Okay.
someone asked, is sound UX a separate career on its own?
Okay. So well, if you go into sound UX, are you still a UI UX designer? Yes, definitely. As it is sound UX, meaning user experience is still there. So if you're a UI UX designer, of course, you are still within the scope of the UI UX field. UI UX is a very broad field. Sound is just one of those things you should look into. It's like learning IXD, that is interaction design. Of course, if you're into interaction design, you are definitely still a UI UX designer. So it's not a separate career, but you can make it a niche for yourself. I am moving straight up into AR VR UX. I want to focus my career on AR VR UX. Of course, I'm still a UI UX designer, so it's not a separate career, but you could make it a niche for yourself.
Okay, thank you. And someone else asked if you could drop links to articles and resources you made mention of.
Oh, well, yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
Okay, thank you. You can drop it in the chat box. And also your slides. Can you share it with us,
Oh,
please?
okay. The slide I'm using at the moment is actually, well, of course, we are very lucky to be in this class. It's a premium file. But then I would scrape off some of the important parts and I would share it with you guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other person has a question, you can send it to the chat box before we end the call. But we'll just wait a moment for Toby to send us the articles and the file he wants to scrape for us. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're welcome. I'm seeing a question in the chat that I quickly want to attend to. Um,
Okay, okay.
does the different what between AR and VR make the design style different? So basically, the same principles that apply to VR is what applies to AR and MR. Now, the difference is the level of immersion. So if you're going to be designing for VR, all you just need to do to migrate it to AR is to remove the 3D environment. Keep your UI, but then replace the 3D environment with the real life environment, and yeah, you're good to go. So the design principles are actually the same for AR, VR, MR. Yep.
Okay, someone asked how much does VRS set cost? You can check that on Google. I don't know. I don't think he might know that. You can always check on Google how much a VRS set will cost.
Hello, Joanne. I think the meeting has ended. Can I leave now?
Yeah, you can leave. What about the links she said you were going to share with us, please?
Oh my. Well, as I said, I currently have them in.
Okay,
How do I
okay.
do it now? I will need to actually scrape off the parts. That is, I will need to,
Okay, you
bring down
see
my
what you send it to
slides.
you send it to us and we'll add it to our newsletter letter.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. I will do that. I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you
Just
very much.
reach out to me privately. I'll get it prepared for you.
Alright. And someone asked one last question. Could you
Yeah.
recommend any AR VR products to look into?
Um. Well, if you want to check out VR products, just first and foremost, you need to get the headsets. If you have the headsets, there are several products or applications already in the headsets. But for augmented reality, the closest one, the closest AR experience we have around us is the AR filters on Snapchat, the AR filters on Instagram. But if you want to experience actual products in AR, you should check out the Bang and Olufsen experience. I'm going to type it out in the chat. Bang and Olufsen experience. I'm sure it's on iOS. I don't know if it's on the Apple Play on the Android Play Store though. But you could check it out. Bang and Olufsen experience. Yep. Yeah. So
Alright.
yeah, those are a few. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's all for today. You can have a great night ahead. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we'll be sending in, I'll be typing in our YouTube link, Twitter, and how to subscribe to our newsletter. Follow us on Twitter, and then you can subscribe to our newsletter through our Twitter account. You see it right there. It's the pin chat on our Twitter page. Channel link. Okay, give me a minute, please, while I do that now. Mm, mm. One moment now. Don't know why this is not copying. Okay. This is our Twitter channel, our Twitter page. Okay. Yeah, that's working now. Twitter link. Later this week. Later this week, the newsletter will be coming out. Coming up. And I think that's all for today. The links have been posted. You can see our Twitter link. Subscribe to our newsletter. It will be coming out later this week as soon as we get the resources from